Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Witches and Wine. This is the show where we talk about witchy stuff and we drink wine. Clink and drink.
Clink and drink.
To our guests, too. I like when our guests drink with us. Oh, that's tasty. Oh, yeah. I'm trading my coffee for my wine. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. If you don't know who I am Lady Lola Stardust. I am the High Priestess of Children of the Crossroads ATC here in Spokane, Washington.
And I am Silenus Stardust, the High Priest.
Of that stuff, yeah. And before we introduce our lovely guest today, I want to do our disclaimer. It has been brought to our attention that sometimes people don't like to watch witches drink wine and talk about witchy stuff. They say that, it's not very educational, it's not professional, you get a little slurry, you get a little, and so I just tell them, whoa, my hair just did something weird. So I just tell them that you have the power, you don't have to watch us, you can just click the X in the corner and we disappear.
Like magic.
Like magic. What I find interesting is when people see that the word wine is in the title of the show and then they act like, what are these witches doing having fun drinking wine? I find that kind of hilarious, but you know what, it's all good. We don't fit everyone's tastes. Yeah, thank gosh.
Yep.
All right, so before we get to our beautiful guest, I'm going to turn it over to my husband, my high priest, my partner in crime, my best friend, Silenus Stardust. Would you like to tell us about the wine we are drinking tonight?
Tonight I would be happy to. So tonight we have chosen Lola's favorite grape. This is a Malbec. It is Antigal Uno Malbec out of the Mendoza region, the premier region for Malbecs in the world in Argentina.
It's got
a textured bottle.
It's textured.
Yeah, it's got a textured bottle with it.
Ooh.
One is the top line from Antigal. And it's a nice, deep, dark fruited Malbec, touch of spice, quite a bit of oak, and not going to break the bank. It's in that sweet spot for when you're buying Malbecs, that $10 to $15 range. 92 points rated, but like I said, $10 to $15, so well worth the price for what you're getting. And any Malbec fan, I would suggest it because it's a nice rounded Malbec for you.
Mm-hmm. What would this go well with? What kind of foods?
My belly. Oh, no, for foods, anything, a little bit of barbecue sauce, anything with a little bit of barbecue sauce would go well with it. Some braised lamb would go fine with it. Something that's not overly fatty because this isn't a high tannin wine, so you don't have those tannins that cut in the big fats. So we're not going to be talking roast or New York strip steaks or anything like that.
Look, it's Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Yay. All right. Well, I know Daniel says I miss the Battle of the Barbecues. I know it's a thing we used to do here in Spokane, and Daniel would come from Montana to join us. We miss it too, but maybe we can start it up someday again and do it a little different. So yeah, it got really big and really hard to organize. We would do this thing where it just started out in a backyard with two friends trying to compete whose corn was better on the barbecue, and then it grew the next year. Other people came, and then pretty soon we had
after 5 years, it was 100 people, and it's really hard to make 100 servings of each dish for people to sample. We had bands playing all sorts of different things.
DJs, it was fun, but it got so big. We were we either need more people to help plan it, we either need more money, or we need to call it quits. And we called it quits because we didn't have either one of those. So anyway, let's get to our guest. I want to welcome our lovely guest. We love her dearly. She's just such an amazing person. Her kids loved our corgi when we were at GodCon a couple years ago. Oh my God, I have so many pictures of your girls with Cow, and they just were in love with her. Lady Aedis LaVeau, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I am very honored to be here tonight.
And
yes, we all love Cow.
I know.
This past GodCon, there were other dogs, but none so sweet or with that, little heart butt, corgi butt.
The corgi butt is a very, very big attraction to the corgis. But I'll tell you what, don't let those cute faces and cute butts fool you.
They're assholes.
She's right over there.
Those big ears, she can hear me.
I know. Anyway, so we first met Aedis at Spring Mysteries.
Yeah.
She was in charge of the children's activities, right?
No, she wasn't even doing that.
Oh, you weren't doing that yet.
Your kids were still. You had one in the oven.
I think you did.
And then you had one, out. And then we met you. What was that? 8-10 years ago now?
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, almost. Yeah.
And I
you just charged at the Children's Shrine. But I had volunteers that were helping run it so that I could keep my children wrangled.
Well, you helped wrangle when we brought Cole for the first time to Spring Mysteries. And for those of you who are watching that don't know about Spring Mysteries, it is done by the Aquarian Tabernacle Church every year around Easter. And they recreate the cult of Demeter, Persephone, that whole story. It has been recreated from the I never can say it right. The Eleusinian Mysteries. I always say it wrong. It is a fantastic festival. We're going to be talking about it a lot too, but I'll go ahead and put the thing here, springmysteries.com. They've moved it from Fort Flagler. Well, after Fort Flagler, we had COVID. So we did it online for a few years, and then they moved it to the what hotel is it at?
It's at the SeaTac Hilton Conference Center.
Yes.
So it allowed. I really enjoyed that move because it made it so that when I was coming in from out of town, I could just fly into SeaTac and then get the shuttle right across the street to go into the hotel.
Yeah.
So the Spring Mysteries is the continuation of the Eleusinian Mysteries in modern day. It was the oldest running cult initiatory rite back before the Romans converted to Christianity.
Yeah, those Romans and their Christianity. But, that's okay. That's okay. Everyone has their thing, man. So you just looked. I saw the look like, what was that? I feel his looks sometimes. So I want to talk about, we're talking about Spring Mysteries. You got to be, weren't you Demeter this 2024, right? Were you were Demeter?
Yes, I was the vessel for Demeter for 2024, and it was life-changing and amazing. And
I can't even imagine what that would be like.
During this time of year, because you get called to do the work at this time of year.
Yeah.
During this time of year, it's really difficult to sit with Demeter because she's in mourning. Her daughter is gone, and everything is bleak, and so you have to sit with contemplation until the sun returns, until she comes back, and so it's life-changing. Like I said, it's an amazing experience, and I am really honored to have been able to do it this year. I am the vessel for Aphrodite, which is more fun. But the lessons, I would argue, are harder for me.
Mm-hmm. Aphrodite's a tough one. I dedicated to Aphrodite a few years ago, and just kind of welcomed her because she had been knocking at my door for a while. And I welcomed her in, and I tell you what, it was really difficult, but it was one of the best things to ever happen to me. I've never held her at Spring Mysteries, but I work with her, and she's amazing. I want to talk about the lessons of what now. So when you held Demeter, what were some really powerful lessons? Obviously, there's the ones of grief and mourning your children that have to move out of the house and whatnot. But what were some things that surprised you that you learned about holding Demeter that you thought, oh, wow, this is interesting? Were there any this is a different lesson I didn't think would happen? Or was it all?
No, I was floored. She was like, we got to dance. She wanted to dance. And so anytime music pops on, I would just find myself dancing, not even knowing that I was doing it. And people would be like, oh, you really like this music? And I'm like, not really, but I just got to move my body. She really liked to dance and celebrate. I was expecting a little more like motherly type of mysteries, taking care of my kids, maybe cooking for them and things like that. But that was not the lesson. She is the provider. Um, she's not that kind of mom. She's out there doing the work that makes people better and being that example to her kids. And so that was just amazing to me because I don't know, a lot of us grow up with, you have to be, as a parent, you have to sacrifice all of your everything, all your happiness and joy for the kids. And all that teaches them is how to not be joyful. So, yeah.
I love that. And you kind of emulate mother energy because we've seen your kids grow up in the craft, and you, like we talked earlier, you ran the children's shrine at Spring Mysteries. You also are the CEO of Spiral Scouts, so you have a real calling. So it didn't surprise me when you were Demeter this past year. I was like, that makes sense. Like, I mean, if she wasn't Demeter in the next few years, I'd be a little confused. Like, so have you always been called to work with children? Has that just been, did that happen after you had kids? Did you have that inkling beforehand?
So I've always been the teacher my whole life. Even when I was the student, I would be the, one helping the teacher grade the papers, tutoring the kids that are lagging behind so that they can, continue onward and excel. And so for me, it's always been about learning and about making sure that others, fostering a love of learning in others, whether they be, children or adults. And so once I started focusing on my craft and my ministry, I realized that parenting ministry is my passion because we have these kids, but they don't come with a manual. So we're all trying to figure out how best to support them while also, keeping them from slamming themselves up against the window and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How many kids do you have? Two?
I have two.
I have two girls.
Two girls.
Yes, that's right. How old are they again?
My eldest is 12, and actually she's going to be the vessel for, she is the chosen vessel for arrows this year.
Well, you got arrows, nice.
Yay!
This year. And then the younger one is 8.
Oh my gosh, how fun. So you get to work with your oldest next year. Oh my God, that we are hoping we can make it. We have someone else that might come with us. We still have to talk about that finances, but I would love to see you all and experience Spring Mysteries at the hotel, because I hear it's pretty nice, because it's nice. At Fort Flagler, we were in barracks. It was like camping. It was like camping, but having a bed in a center, a sheltered place. But it could get pretty rough sometimes.
It was a little more boot camping.
It was a little more boot camping. So, and also all the energy of Spring Mysteries. I mean, it's overwhelming with all those people, and you never really got an escape from it, because when you were in the barracks, you could go to your room, but you could hear like all of and so you had to really learn, which I think is a great skill. We had to learn how to kind of ground and shield amongst the chaos. And so that was great. But now in a hotel, you got your own room you can go back to. How convenient is that? When was the first time you went to the hotel experience? Was it when you were Demeter, or was it before?
No, I've been to every, so as soon as we started the Spring Mysteries at the hotel, I was coming because I came up every year. I was children's shrine coordinator.
Okay,
yeah. So I did that job from, I want to say 2015 until I passed it on last year to Esme. So
that's a perfect one for that too. That's awesome.
You just took the mantle and she's running with it.
Isn't that great when you can pass things on to people and you just watch it grow and they add their energy and it grows more and more? That's what it's all about. I mean, we want to leave a legacy. We want to leave something that can grow without us. That to me is community, because if you have something that you quote unquote run, and it can't function without you, the one that started it, then that's not community. So I love that. But I want to talk about Spiral Scouts. Can you tell us, for those who are watching, what is Spiral Scouts?
So Spiral Scouts came out of the idea that boys and girls could actually learn the same things outside of school, just like they do in school. This is, more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
A young man was denied his Eagle Scouts because he would not do a statement of faith for Christianity.
Oh.
And so he and Pete Pathfinder Davis got together and they created this program, and it's grown over the last 20 years in new and interesting ways. So so we're really proud of the fact that we were the first to be inclusive of all genders.
Mm-hmm.
Our program is very, very geared towards the individual child. So special needs children are able to participate fully in the program. My kids have the ADHD, and so they're not punished for not sitting still. Those kinds of things that, sometimes in other situations they wouldn't be able to thrive. And so that is the big thing about Spiral Scouts. So the focus is personal, environmental, and social responsibility.
Oh, I love that.
And so we teach everything from camping to, I think we just put out the archery badge, and I know that we are working on a gun safety badge. We have coding, like anything that youth might be interested in that they're not going to get in academia. That is what we do.
Cool.
I love that. I've always been a big fan of Spiral Scouts. I know that, oh gosh, when was it that me and Graybeard tried to start interest in Spiral Scouts? God, it was
7, 8 years ago.
7, 8 years ago. We were having Spiral Scouts meetings for people, do one here, and it just I don't know. Sometimes people are interested in things, and then sometimes you have a lull. You know what I mean? So have you found that to be the case with sometimes it's really active and happening, and then there's times when it's just kind of but this is all over the place, right? Spiral Scouts is is it international?
No, yes. So we have orders in Canada, in England, and Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, as well as the United States. So
and this was all started by ATC.
Correct. So even though we fall under the umbrella of the ATC, the program itself is, I would call it secular, because growing up Catholic, I had the Bible bashed at me the whole time, and so I'm very about teaching other people's kids religion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's inclusive. It's not necessarily going to be all focused on Wicca or pagan. It's for anybody, and it's even for those who are Christian can come in and if they want a different experience, right?
Correct. So because we have the ability to be so diverse, our most pagan program is the seasonal Sabbath series, but it's, even though each of the Sabbaths that are Wiccan are named, we just did the Samhain one, for example. It is actually just a comparative culture class. What do you and your family do during this time of year? What do your friends do? How is the celebration the same? How is it different? What are other celebrations that happen around the world and things like that? So it's all meant to be inclusive of everybody, no matter the background.
I love that.
As I ran the circle in Houston for about 5 years, and I would say 50% of my scouts, or 50% of the scouts in the program there had atheist parents, and then we had some pagan kids, and we actually had a Hindu family that joined us as well, because they found that they could, learn and be appreciated for their differences as well as their similarities, and that's not the case everywhere.
Well, yeah, they were felt accepted.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I love that. Now, if someone is interested in having their kid be part of Spiral Scouts, or how does that work when you have them all over? Does someone like say, hey, I want to run a Spiral Scouts group, and they just contact the people on .spiralscouts.org, right? Is there a on the website that they can submit something?
Yeah, so there's several options. If you have a community already and you have a lot of interest, you can start a circle in your area. If it's just you and your kid, so like when the pandemic happened, I had to scale down the circle in Houston to just become a hearth, which is just one family working the program. And then we also have a virtual circle that meets once a month. And yeah, and so it doesn't matter if you don't have any people interested in your area, because you get online and the scouts interact with each other during that time, because that's the main focus. Is letting them know that there are other people interested in alternative scouting programs. And so they work the program through right now Teams, but I think we're going to be moving to the Google platform.
Nice.
It's a lot easier for kids because they're already working with Google in their classroom.
Yeah. Kids are pretty tech savvy, unlike the parents sometimes.
And Teams is such a difficult program anyways. It's so temperamental.
It can be very temperamental. Yeah. Well, I like that you are talking about online, because I feel like when I was a student at the seminary, and when I was just working with the ATC. Oh, they got family. Is it kids talking?
It's my partner, just got home from work.
Oh, okay. You're like, hey, I'm on live right now. Anyways, it's amazing that I learned to do the online stuff. I had no idea that I would be, because we have a pretty good following on our Discord channel, and I have become very very active in online, running things online. So, and I learned that from the ATC, and I learned that from the school, and because I hear during pandemic when ATC did Spring Mysteries online, and there were other places, other communities, witch communities trying to do their stuff online, ATC was the gold standard for that. So I'm really excited to hear that you have Spiral Scouts online, because there's such a huge need for it. Hello. Hi.
He has requested that I rephrase to boyfriend from partner for whatever reason. That validation.
But yeah, I'm glad to hear the online stuff. You're on mute, hon. We couldn't hear you. She's like, get out of here. I'm doing an interview. So I'm really glad to hear that Spiral Scouts is online. That definitely, and you can find all that on the website, correct?
Right. So if you go to the website, the very first page that you get to has all of the options. Start a new charter, volunteer for your local charter, sign your kids up, sign them up with virtual circles. And so it's right there. And then, and the fourth one is donate, because those are the 4 things that people are coming to that website to do. And so, absolutely. Yeah. So it's pretty simple process. As far as the virtual circle, everything's done through Google Classroom, and the fun interactions that they have during the monthly meeting.
Yeah.
We have lots of plans for virtual circle. It has been a test pilot program, basically, because we were planning to start it, and then the pandemic hit, and so we just we hit the live button on it, even though it wasn't ready.
Yeah.
So it's been a learning curve, but we are really enjoying the ability to meet and online. And
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, now that I know that there's online, you know, we have a lot of people in our online community that have kids, and if they're interested, I will definitely refer them to that so they can attend or find out more about the online. You mentioned Houston. So how you were in Houston for, well, no, wait, let me back up. How long have you been the CEO of Spiral Scouts?
Oh, I was promoted to CEO in 2017. Before that, I was VP, and before that, I was treasurer.
So you've been involved with Spiral Scouts since when?
I started as a volunteer with my local charter in 2013 when my eldest was like 6 months old. And so I would help out there. But with HQ, I've been a volunteer since 2015.
So this is funny, when the Wiccan Seminary, which if anyone is wondering what that is, wiccanseminary.edu, I should have that on there, but I don't, is a school that the ATC runs online to get your bachelor's degree or associates, whatever you want to do, in Wiccan clergy. And it used to be on Second Life. And I remember, Aedis, when you would do rituals in Second Life, and I think it was your youngest that was just a baby, and you would be doing your rituals and you could hear the baby just cooing, and I mean, it was the most beautiful thing ever. And what a good baby, by the way, because I was like, if that was my kid, like when he was a baby, no, he'd be screaming. But it was just, I love that. And that's how I became to know you in Second Life. I was very new to the school and the sim, and I'd be like, oh, Aedis is the one that brings her baby to the rituals, and you can hear her. And I thought that was pretty awesome. But so you lived in Houston. How long were you in Houston for? Was that where were you born and raised?
So I'm originally from Southern California. I moved to Washington State to go to college, and then after college, I moved to Houston to be near my mom because I was going to have kids and I wanted.
That's right. Yeah. Where's your mom? Is your mom still with us? Correct.
Correct. She's in Houston.
And she's in Houston.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, go to Spring Mysteries, you'll see her. She doesn't miss it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that support that you get. So you were in Houston, and then what made you decide to come up to Washington State?
So the plan was to only be down there for 5 years, and then things got complicated. So I like to joke around that I didn't know it was a swamp, so I thought it was going to move faster. It slowed me down. Yeah. So the reason we moved up here is because I have 2 daughters, and the legislation that's passing made it so that I was afraid for their quality of life. Yeah. So we just came up, like they got out of school in May, and June 1st we packed up my van and came on up here.
Wow.
Yeah, my sister lives in Houston and has 3 little girls, and I'm nervous for all 3 of them with
all the things,
the rules of Texas.
Yeah. It's a scary time for women.
Yeah, I just don't believe that the state government needs to know what goes on in a woman's personal health.
Yeah, well, we're not talking politics on the show.
I'm saying in Texas specifically. Texas specifically, they have things in place that they have to be reported to the state.
And that's all we'll say there. So, so when you came up to Washington State, you moved in at the Mother Church in Index. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
And how long were you there for?
We stayed there for about 6 months, and then found a place nearby. And I was deep in the Demeter mysteries, and got a divorce, and so then I had to go back to the church for a little bit longer, and now I'm here in my nice little apartment that's nearby.
Yeah, nice.
So the kids we're still up there every day, pretty much.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing I love about the ATC and the Mother Church is when I remember the first time we went and visited, they had a guest that was staying there, and they opened their doors. They're a church, you know. They open their doors to people that need a place to stay, need to get their feet back on the ground. And people don't realize that church runs like a freaking church. Like, it is charitable, it is open door policy, it is public worship. The ATC is fantastic in bringing community together, helping community. There are so many organizations from the ATC, including Spiral Scouts for the kids, but there's Save the Seeds. There's all these wonderful things that the church does. And so I just, of course, I'm going to promote the church because we are affiliated, but we just love everyone there. And I think that's wonderful that they offer a place for people to get their feet on the ground. And that kind of gives me comfort, because in these uncertain times, sometimes, I mean, we are very lucky. We own our little tiny home, flat out, no mortgage anymore, our little tiny piece of heaven. So we don't have to really worry about not being able to make mortgage or whatnot. But it's nice to know that there are places that offer, what would you call it?
Sanctuary?
Sanctuary, yes, that offers sanctuary. And I love that you were one of those people that got to do that. You know, it helped get your feet back on the ground. You were able to, you know, just improve your life and be happy. And Dusty and Bella really, they love their members, and they love people who aren't even members. They're very inclusive. They might be a Wiccan church, but it's very inclusive. And I want to ask you about your experience up there. Was it because you had always kind of participated online and kind of from afar, right? So tell me how different that was for you to experience just being right there in the middle of all of it.
Well, it was quite the culture shock, going from you know, a distant student to being there. And I had been a student for Bella's for, you know, a long time, and she was used to me being around in her head. And so there was a lot of expectation that I knew things that I didn't know, just because, you know, I hadn't been there in person. I had only ever been there online. And so that was fun and exciting. But everybody has been really welcoming. The community here is amazing, and they do honestly care about people. To that end, I am helping them with a project called New Elusis, which in its inception is the idea that we're going to have a place for the Eleusinian mysteries to happen on the regular, but it is so much more than that. We are looking at helping people with housing, above and beyond, you know, church-centered activities. We're talking about working with the state of Washington to provide affordable housing to people, and we're looking at a lot of things to help out the local community. And once we have done it here, we plan to help any ATC affiliates do what we're doing.
I love that. That would be really cool to have a place. I mean, that's kind of the dream of a lot of us witches, is to have a community based property, kind of a Covenstead, kind of a commune type feeling, where you can have enough land and enough people that can live on the land and help out and have those spiritual experiences. That is such a dream of ours. So to see it happen and the progress, I'm all about it for ATC, because if they do it, we can all follow in our little Covensteads all over. We can start something, and I love that. That's a dream that's coming to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an amazing project, and I'm really excited about it. It will also obviously provide space for us to meet as far as Spiral Scouts is concerned, and learn a lot of the things that are part of the program, but be able to, you know, come together and do that. So yeah, it's it's really exciting to be here near the Mother Church, so I can help, and they can like build better community for everybody.
So I want to talk about you being Aphrodite for next year. You said that her lessons are the hardest for you. If I heard you correctly, can you explain? Because it's probably the same reasons why
most people have trouble with Aphrodite.
Well, okay, so I work with a lot of dark goddesses. So I work with Hecate, I work with Lilith, I work with Ereshkigal, I work with very what people would consider, oh geez. And I have no problem going to my shadow side. I have no problem going to those dark depths. But Aphrodite had been knocking at my door since the very first festival I went to at the ATC, which was about 12 years ago, 11 years ago. It was Hecate Sickle. I did Hecate Sickle before I did Spring Mysteries. And my coven sister at the time was very much into Aphrodite, and I would look at her, and she was so beautiful, and she was so confident with herself, and she worked with Aphrodite, and it was just all this, and I was like, I could never. And I remember I told my high priestess at the time, I was like, I can't connect with Aphrodite. And she looked at me, and she points out, she's like, look at you, Lola. I had my lipstick and my makeup. I had a beautiful flower in my hair. I had a dress on. And she's like, you are Aphrodite. Like, look at, and I was like, no. And that's when Aphrodite was like, yes, you are, and was knocking at my door. And I'm like, no. So tell me about your experience, why you said that's a tough one for you.
So for me, it's a tough one because I also I dedicated to Aphrodite at my second Spring Mysteries, which was 2008 or 2009. I don't know. All gets kind of mixed up in there. And so I was given this ritual to do for this entire year, and it brought out all of the sexual trauma that I had growing up and things like that. So it became that kind of situation for me. And so I've had to get rid of a lot of trauma and work on myself a lot before coming around to this. I was telling people that it's really funny because I spent a year, a couple of years ago, like right before I elevated third degree, I had a special project that I had to do, Goddess gave me, and that was every single day I had to take a selfie.
Oh gosh.
Every single day. And it was whenever I remembered it. So it didn't matter if I was like in bed, like just getting up, or it was the end of the day. It was just whenever I remembered.
You had to do it.
When I had to do it. And so after 365 selfies, I had come to the point where I was like, oh, I'm not bad to look at. I'm not bad at all. And so that was the moment that I started realizing, okay, well, I've dealt with a lot of the psychological needs that I had in my youth, and now I'm at the point where I have a lot of self-love. So both of these things have come around to Aphrodite choosing me to be her vessel this year.
Yeah. And it's beautiful when that happens, because at GodCon a couple of years ago, I invoked Aphrodite, and that was one of the most incredible experiences for me. And it wasn't about getting a role in Spring Mysteries. It was my gift to her, because I had dedicated to her a year before, and I was like, I need to invoke her, because I was so afraid to invoke her. And so invoking her at Spring Mysteries at GodCon was a huge deal, and it made me feel so, I don't know, it was very natural. It was so therapeutic. It was so therapeutic. And that is what she is about, because it's not about what's out here. I mean, it can be, but it's really not. It's about what's in here. Like, if you feel beautiful in here, you're fucking beautiful. Like, that's how it is.
It's the self-love concept.
It's the self-love. And so many of us don't have that. As women, my cats are going crazy. We have such low self-esteem, us women sometimes. And I mean, can you blame us? There's been a lot of things we've been through. So are you looking forward to the lessons of Aphrodite and that all of that stuff? Because a lot's going to come with it.
Yes, no, already has. So I picked up, I always start reading, and with regards to Aphrodite, I know her myths. I'm very familiar with her. So I was like, well, what would she have me pick up that I haven't read before? And so what she actually had me pick up was Aphrodite is the name of the book by Isabel Allende, and it's a book about aphrodisiacs and the joy of the senses and things like that. And so it's beautiful, it's amazing, and it's something that I would have never read because it's technically a recipe book. So
yeah, into that stuff. You send me the link in our messenger chat. I would love to see that. Yeah.
So that's where she got me started. Last year at this time, I was reading a book called Regeneration, which was about how the climate change crisis can be stopped even in this late stage based on sustainable agriculture and things like that. And so like it brought me from the verge of, psychological collapse about my children's futures and things like that to like, oh, okay, there is hope for the future. We just got to, think about things differently. Like, did you know that there is a perennial strain of wheat? So you don't have to clear cut the whole field and plant the next year. You don't have to throw down the insecticides and all the stuff. No, you plant it and it grows, and you just cut the heads off and make.
Oh, wow.
Those are the kinds of lessons I got to learn with Demeter, and now Aphrodite is coming with, out of left field with things like that as well, where it's like,
isn't that awesome? I love that. I love that. So yeah, it's, look at the pretty, is that, what kind of flower is that? Is that a carnation?
This is a lion's mane mushroom that we just harvested. We're growing.
It's a mushroom?
Yeah, and it's super good.
Oh my gosh.
So tell them if you want to grow it, and it's good, but you have to store it like this.
So you store it in a paper towel, so that it doesn't get moldy, and we just harvested. That's our second harvest from them.
Oh my gosh. Now, are those, you can eat those and put them in food and all this stuff? Oh, that's so cool.
Saute them in butter and garlic and just, enjoy. Yes.
I love that. I love hearing I love when people are harvesting their gardens. I look at what Evergreen Hearth is doing online, and they have such amazing gardens, and I see their harvest and I'm like, oh my God, this is the life. Like, this is what we need to do. And you can do it. We live in the middle of, a city. We aren't out in the middle of nowhere. It's very urban around here, but there's so many books and stuff out there about growing. You can have your own little gardens and plants and food in your house. And I love that. And I'm sure Demeter was all teaching you about that. I know that was Demeter's message for a very long time and still is: grow your food, grow your food.
It's the idea, if you have 3 romaine cuts, that you never will be without lettuce.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it will keep regrowing itself over and over again. But you have to have 3 cuts to make sure that you're constantly cycling.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. I love that. I want to talk about real quick, because I've never gotten to ask you this. When did you get into your witchiness? How did you know? When did this all start for you,
When
Aedis?
did you find your path?
When did you find your path?
So when I was about 5 years old, we went to mass every Sunday, and we would sit in the front row, and I'm a 5-year-old kid, and you would not expect this. Yes, my Capricorn was coming out a little bit, sure, but I'm over here like rapt attention. I'm watching this guy, and he is slinging magic every which way. His words, his movements, everything about his ritual is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I am touched to the core. And I've grown up listening to how, Jesus is all about love, loving everybody and taking care of the people and being with the people that are the least and taking care of the world and things like that. And so when we get home from church that day, I say, Mommy, Daddy, I know exactly what I want to be when I grow up. And they're like, really? What is that, sweetheart? And I said, I'm going to be a priest.
Ooh.
And they're like, you can't.
You can't.
Not if you're Catholic.
Not if you're Catholic. Yeah.
You can't. And I'm like, but I don't understand. Why can't I? And they are like, well, because your avatar is female. So therefore you don't have that career track. So at that point I was like, okay, well, I'm 5 years old. I've lost my religion. And now I need to figure out what else to do. And so I started reading books about religion and figuring out why wouldn't I be able to do this amazing thing that this guy, I just watched him do with like colors, because I don't know that I'm looking at auras and things like that. I'm just seeing some amazing, magical ritual. And so after much reading, I found magic. I found the path of ceremonial magic. I went to all sorts of things. And I honestly never wanted to be Wiccan because it was too tree hugging, and I was worried that that those are the people that are going to get beat up, like, really, especially because I've had in mind climate change and bad things happening. In the worst case scenario, these people are hugging trees. They don't got any way to defend themselves. They're just going to get over it. And so I had no interest in Wicca. And then my father, ironically, who is very Catholic and is very against my being a witch, got me a book called Witchcrafting by Phyllis Carrot.
Yeah.
And so she's a lawyer with a lawyer's mind, so she explained things very dryly and very, logically. And I was like, oh, this is not anything like I thought Wicca was. Yeah. Let's give this a shot. And so that's how I did.
How old were you at that time?
I was in my 20s. I was 25 or so.
Okay. Yeah. That's kind of how I came to Wicca. I kept coming to Wicca over and over because I, at about 10 years old, had to do, not had to, but was told to do research. It's a long story, but I did research on exorcisms. We're not going to go into detail of why, but I did. And it started bringing me into religious studies, and because at 10 years old I was a very avid reader. I was reading like at a 4th grade level before I even got into kindergarten. Like, I was just very, very, like, I love books, I love to read, I like to research. You said you're a Capricorn, right?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So I wanted to know the knowledge.
If you want, I can call my daughter in here and we can make it a conference, because
Hold on. You guys freely admit that
we're Capricorn. This coming from a Gemini. Whatever. Anyway, ignore the pompous Gemini in the corner here. But so that got me on a path of wanting to read about different religions, like you. And that was a long path up until about my 20s, and I kept getting drawn back into Wicca. And I'd be like, no, because there was still, this was in the 80s. So there was still all this like, ooh, witches, Satan worshipers. But I knew, I was like, no, because I read about exorcisms and the Catholic stance on demons and all this. And I don't know. It has nothing to do, but I don't know. I'm kind of scared. And then, my 20s, I got distracted by partying and being a very, very lively party girl in my 20s. Would you call it that?
You were experiencing Dionysian adventures without realizing it.
Yeah, I was already dedicated to Dionysus before I knew it. But I always kept coming back to Wicca. I mean, I read Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book in a New Age store in secret when my mom was looking at angel cards and stuff like that. and I would be in the back sneaking and looking at his big blue book. But yeah, it's funny how that happens with us, because for me, it's like, I love hearing that. And a lot of witches do that. They like, I want to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it always brings us back to Wicca. And I feel like it brings us home. Like it's like knocking on our back door going, hi, you're a witch. And it's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Well, it's the idea of when certain faiths will allow their children to go out and experience the world or two for a year or two before they figure out, do you want to be continuing this path or do you want to do something different? It's the same kind of concepts.
It's the same concept, yeah. And I have very Christian parents, and they always knew that, oh, this one's gonna be I was the youngest, the baby, and they're like, yeah, she needs to go and read about that. And they were hoping that it would bring me back to Christianity. And it didn't. So I love hearing that. I love that.
Every path is their own. Everybody's path is their own, for sure. I am really grateful for everything I learned before. And it allowed me, especially when I came into training officially and things like that, they would expect you to walk about and learn about other things and to make sure that you're on the right path. But I was like, what? I've been searching for 20 years at this point. I know what I'm looking for. I know where I'm going. It's good. Yeah. So.
And it is like a lot of people we would hear in the school, and I would hear just talking to people online, when you find not just Wicca, but when you realize you're a witch, it is like, it's being home. You found home.
It's that big aha moment.
Yeah. Like, this makes sense. This speaks to all those parts of me that I thought were so weird and so wrong but it turns out witches are some of the most I'm biased, but I love Jesus. I don't not believe in Jesus. I love Jesus. I will never disrespect Jesus. I love a lot of different people's religions. I honor that. But for me, it just was like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And it's that aha moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. With me, like I said, that moment where I was seeing him, what I now call do the magic, put out that manifestation for a better life for all the people in his congregation and things like that. I was like, this is amazing. Look at these rainbow colors and things like that I would never share with anybody because taboo. But then you come to the craft and you're like, oh, just looking at auras. Okay. And those are animal spirits of the land that I'm seeing. They're not nightmares that I have to be afraid of the dark anymore. That was one of my other very favorite things, because I am, like you, work with a lot of dark goddesses. Hecate owns me body and soul, but
yes, she does.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to hold Hecate in Sickle yet, or not Sickle, Spring Mysteries?
No, I held her at Sickle.
That's right.
When it was online, because I was still in Houston. So
I got to hold Hecate on the online
first one.
Spring Mysteries. Actually, I think it was the first.
It was the very first festival the ATC did online. And
I was already working with her a lot. So and when you talk about the time and what?
I was thinking where we're at.
Oh, I know, honey. I'm aware. Thank you, sweetie. Mm-hmm. When I held Hecate, it came at it like you were talking about Demeter during this time of year, the dark time of year. When you held Demeter, it's kind of depressing because Demeter's in mourning. When I held Hecate for the online Spring Mysteries, it was when my dad was dying. So that was like, talk about dark. But she actually she saved me from going to a very, 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 I was already mourning his sickness and his dementia, but oh man, sometimes we are put in this situation, and that's why I love Spring Mysteries and holding these vessels. There's a reason why it starts off with the dark time of the year. I really, truly believe that, because you got to get that all. you got to face that before you go to the light time of the year. So why not have these goddesses and hold these different deities that, what is this lesson? What is this shadow that we have to learn? And it's almost like, hey, we're going to just get you through you don't get baby steps. You get thrown in, and you just like, okay, here we go. So when you were talking about that dark time of the year for Demeter, that was really tough for me with Hecate, but she carried me through his illness. She carried me through, even when he died, I saw her, I felt her there, and she just was like, I know him already. I'm going to take him to the underworld because I've been holding his hand this whole time. And it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. So I'm so happy for you that you're getting Aphrodite, because I think that, it's going to be, again, some really deep lessons. Dark time of the year, Aphrodite. What does that look like for you? What does that mean before we wrap this up?
So for me, Aphrodite in this time of the year is just going back to basics. Are my nails, cut well enough so that I don't get dirt underneath them? I know that I'm not wearing makeup, but she's like, we'll teach you that later. We'll teach you that later.
Yeah.
Right now it's been really about the basics, like, am I feeding myself? Because that was one of the things that Demeter told me, is every single thing that that keeps you alive, you hate. This is a problem. You're going to have to deal with it. And then immediately, as soon as Aphrodite claimed me, she's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
You like food? Let's food. You don't like water? Water.
Yep. You got to do it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Self-care, self-love. Yeah. And that's a shadow. That's a shadow for a lot of us. I envy those women and men out there that are very confident and very like, look at, and I'm like, what is that like? But you know what? We all have our challenges and whatnot. And that's kind of what Aphrodite teaches us as well. So, well, thank you so much, Aedis. We are coming to the top of our hour. This has been such a great conversation, and I love you so dearly. Like, we are always on the outskirts of like kind of knowing each other. We've known each other, but this has been a very nice conversation. I have found out more about you, and that makes me very happy. So we're going to go ahead, and first of all, if those watching are interested in what we do and want to help our nonprofit, because we are a 501(c)(3), we do a lot of things in the community. We do a lot of things online. You can donate to us. We have a Venmo, and it's just COTC-ATC, Children of the Crossroads ATC. There it is right there. Pretty easy. It's also in our description in this episode. You can find it. We don't require a donation, but we appreciate it. And we also have PayPal. Same moniker, PayPal me, COTC-ATC. Again, donations are very much appreciated. It helps us keep community running. I am slurring my words when I say community. I've had a few glasses of wine. That's how I can tell when I'm a little like, hey, I say community. And I know. I'm entertaining. And if you are interested in being on our show, if you want to know more about a wine, if you would like to suggest a topic or a guest, you can email us at
crossroadscoven@gmail.com.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That's crossroadscoven@gmail.com.
So thank you so much, Aedis. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. And we will keep in touch. If you have new things you want to promote, let us know. Mm-hmm. And everyone, please, in this time of our lives, let us all be wonderful and loving to each other. Always walk with the goddess. And until next time, blessed be. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Aedis. Have a great day.
You too.